Genesis's report of the activities of day 5 in the creation story missed terribly in equating with what we know about the formation of our planet from scientific research. On day 5, according to the Bible, the animals of the sea and air were created. Specifically mentioned were whales and birds. However, we know today that both whales and birds are descended via evolution from prior land animals. Land animals, the biblical tale has not yet brought into the narrative. For Genesis, these creatures apparently popped into existence from nothing, and this is what some creationists, even today, believe to be the historical truth, despite the overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary.
Notice it uses the word create. So this isn't something like let the land produce or let the oceans produce. This is God intervening supernaturally to create something that didn't exist before.
There are those, as we have seen, who have jettisoned this literal reading of the Scriptures, but nonetheless want to have their biblical cake and eat it too. These people want to retain some vestige of the Genesis creation story while acknowledging the truth of scientific discovery. These individuals will leave the Genesis narrative as written, but assert that the text was actually inspired as a code they have been able to decipher, which reveals the amazing parallel between the Genesis creation story and modern science. Author Andrew Parker, for example, in his book The Genesis Enigma, believes day 5 of the biblical creation story actually begins the nearly half-billion-year-long tale of the general evolution of all Earth's life forms following the appearance of the Cambrian trilobites, beginning with sea life, which is why, according to Parker, the Genesis author mentions whales. He also states that the Genesis author included birds in his narrative because they have a unique use for vision, eyes used not to escape predators, their wings do that for them, but to see the great variety of color that light from the sun affords. The birds, as he writes, serve as a message of the power of light and vision on earth today. They tell us of that great authority of life, the sun, through their brilliant hues, which so many of their fellow animals can ill afford. It was fitting for the author of Genesis to say something special about birds in his creation account. However, Gerald Schroeder, who authored another book decoding the enigmatic text of Genesis titled The Science of God, believes the 5th day of Genesis involved the first multicellular life of the Cambrian, wherein the waters swarmed with animal life, having the basic body plans of all future animals. This is also the time when winged insects appeared. These guys updating the text of Genesis for a more modern, sophisticated audience really need to get together and create one coherent interpretation. It will save them the trouble of looking so ridiculous when they stray away from the plain text itself. Telling is an admission from Parker, who confessed, "When the biblical text is taken literally, it is left in the wake of an advancing science. But when it is read figuratively, as here in the case of birds, it becomes a great unknown in the way it keeps pace with modern science." A figurative reading, rather than a plain, straightforward reading of the text, is what is required to understand the creation story of Genesis, according to Parker. But which figurative reading? Parker's doesn't agree with Schroeder's, for example, and neither of theirs likely agrees with a number of other so-called figurative readings. And yet, each of these figurative readings is said to bring Genesis into exact parallel with modern scientific discoveries. The only reading that completely gets everything wrong is a plain reading of Genesis, the way it was originally inspired to have been written.